are not preventing you from breathing correctly. So normally you breathe in and out, okay? But when you sit in kyphosis or sit in chair or lie in bed, knots or like muscle knots occur, okay? Like suppose you had something that like muscle tension, it forms knots, and there's like scar tissue that forms in your rib cage that you can't breathe. So just you're breathing not at full capacity, and you have to break up those knots before you could breathe correctly. And you break it up by using different techniques and stuff like that. So I've noticed from my experience, that I tend to breathe. I don't have to consciously breathe all the time, and you just kind of breathe very shallow. I'm not one of those yoga people that gotta concentrate on your breathing all day long. No, it's just I breathe when I breathe, and I've noticed I can't breathe that fully. When I'm sitting very slouched like this. Suppose you sit in a chair very, very slouchy, and very slouchy, and your rib cage like folds in, and you can't breathe because the physical structure of your rib cage prohibits you from breathing correctly. Plus, but most of the time I don't even pay attention to it, because who goes around thinking gotta breathe? It's just a normal thing, unless you're one of those yoga people who consciously practice it, but the idea of breathing correctly is just, for me, is just right now what is just side thingy, I think. But I've been just playing around with the Wim Hof method, where you're breathing more for adrenaline breathing. So rib cage, knots on your rib cage. So the idea was you essentially just got to get rid of the knots. But exercising, when you exercise, you play with your capacity. When I was running for 5K, I wasn't running 10K, 5K, only 5K. That was the capacity. I was running 10K a day of training, but the race was 5K. Your capacity, your normal breathing very slowly, okay? But when you're sedentary, you're just breathe more, and then you tend to be able to hyperventilate, because you're kind of like in this zone, and this training makes you kind of hyperventilate, kind of breathing so much, and it trains you to stress training and stuff like that. So that's the interesting part. But the idea of knots in your rib cage prohibiting you from breathing, that is before you can do all this, you should get rid of those knots. And I'm just still playing around with it. I'm not 100% sure. And yeah.